What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the BMW Championship. This tournament will be played at Conway Farms in Illinois, and it is the last chance for golfers to make the Tour Championship next week. So we've got 70 golfers in the field. There is no cut, so we're going to get 4 rounds from everybody barring a DQ or a withdrawal. And then the top 30 are going to move on to the Tour Championship next week. So pretty interesting dynamics. And since we do have such a small field, the pricing's a little interesting on DraftKings. They have to give you a chance to make some pretty good lineups. So we'll talk through some of those options. But before I do so, I want to talk about my key stats and this tool and the data visuals that I show you in a second. All the tools that you're going to see in this video are available on dfsondemand.com. In a field where we've got 70 of the best golfers who have, or golfers who have played the best this year, and there's no cut, nothing too out of the ordinary in terms of key stats. I did want to use driving distance this week. Being a longer hitter appears to be a stat that really goes well with success at this course. Strokes gained approach is also one that I wanted to include. And then par 5 birdie or better. That's not one that we've used quite a bit this year. Just because we haven't, honestly, you don't get a lot of par 72s on the PGA Tour. We haven't had one in I can't tell you how long. But there are a few extra par 5s this week. So being able to go low on those is going to be crucial. Then I finished up with strokes gained putting, and I re-upped with birdie or better. And the reason that I kind of double counted them is I really want to emphasize how important it's going to be to be under par this week. I mean, when you have a field of 70 and everyone's making the cut, guys who can finish in 35th but make a ton of birdies along the way are going to be more valuable than some guys who finish inside the top 25. It's just the way the scoring is going to wind up. So with how important it is, I really wanted to emphasize it again. Okay, let's talk about some of these golfers. And the top, 10 guys, I could not blame you for playing any of them. Okay, it's very clear we're at the point of the season where the studs are, they've geared up all year for this. They're trying to peak at the right time, and a lot of them are doing so. So we've seen Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson just absolutely on a tear recently. Jordan Spieth with 2 consecutive second-place finishes. It was just, a month ago or maybe 6 starts ago that he went back-to-back with wins. Like, this guy is just peaking at the right time. He's the odds-on favorite to win. Dustin Johnson, same story, right? Like, wins the Northern Trust, kind of fades a little bit after the first round 66 at the Dell Technologies, but you're going to have no problem playing DJ. From a game theory aspect, I will probably have less of those 2 guys than I will of maybe the next 8 to 10. I suspect that a lot of the ownership is going to be heavily weighted towards just Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson, when it's Ricky Fowler, who is my number 2 ranked golfer. And we'll talk about the guy right above him in a second, Justin Thomas. But you'll notice that both of those players rank higher for me than Dustin Johnson and Jordan Spieth do. It's close, but if they rank better and they're cheaper and they're less owned, that's the trifecta, right? So that's kind of exactly what we're looking for. So Fowler is a guy who has been pumping out top 5s and top 10s all season long. Makes plenty of birdies, can get hot in an instant. And then Justin Thomas, who is very likely the player of the year, coming off the win at the Dell Technologies. He won the PGA Championship. Just look at his last 3 rounds, and he shoots up my key ranks very much because of his overall birdie or better, the length off the tee, and his approach game has just been outstanding this year. So those are the guys that everyone knows about, right? It's the next few that I think can make for some contrarian plays. There's some guys in here that I want to talk about. The first of those guys is Hideki Matsuyama. And a few weeks ago, Matsuyama would have been in the same exact conversation that we're having about Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, guys who are just lighting the world on fire. What you have to remember here And Matsuyama's cooled down a bit as of late, but what you have to remember is these guys did not play last week. So they didn't play, they haven't played since, what was that? Sunday the 27th? No, that can't be right, the 3rd. Sunday the 3rd is the last time that these guys played. So if anyone was struggling, they've had plenty of time to get right. They've had time to go back and work on things at the range. It's not the rat race to the next tournament. This goes both ways, though. Like, I'm not weighing current form maybe as much as I should, or maybe not current form. I should say last week's results. Basically, I'm willing to get rid of all of last week's results because guys who are hot are going to have might have a hard time keeping it going with a week off, and guys that aren't playing well or did not play well, maybe missed the cut, they have time to get right. So it's a fairly wide range of outcomes that you can get when you have a week off. So I think that we can throw out the kind of underwhelming performance with Matsuyama last week. I assume that he has had a lot of time to get right. Another one of these guys that seems to make a lot of sense here is Jason Day. So we talk about Jason Day every single week. I don't need to tell you. I think that he's rounding into form. I think he's peaking, whatever. Let me just show you this. Okay? This is the last 5 years of course history. And you have to remember that Conway Farms has not been used for the entirety of course history at the BMW Championship. It's just been 2016, 2015, and 2013. So that's what we're going to look at. And on the right-hand side here is average DraftKings points per tournament over those 3 years. You can see Jason Day averaging 94 DraftKings points, and he's played all 3 events. Now let's dive a little deeper. What you see here is pretty interesting. He withdrew last year and only scored 55 DraftKings points. So even with a withdrawal, Jason Day is one of the highest DraftKings points performers when the BMW Championship has been at Conway Farms. That's pretty significant. We'll go back and look at a couple of these other names here. Paul Casey, yeah, we'll talk about him in a second. There's DJ. We're actually going to talk about a lot of these guys, so I'll hop back to it. But Jason Day seems to be a valuable option. And then Koepka as well, maybe a little off the grid just because he hasn't put up a ton of huge performances. But what I love about Koepka is his ability to go under par. Makes a ton of birdies. He can make eagles, especially with a bunch of par 5s here. His length is going to come in handy. This is the type of player, also like Tony Finau, that you want to target in no-cut events because they're going to make a ton of birdies, and they might take a ton of bogeys as well. But the DraftKings scoring heavily weights those under par rounds or under par scores. Paul Casey, I told you I had to mention. You saw his form at the BMW Championship, 99 average DraftKings points, a second place, and a T23. That second place was last year. There's probably few guys on tour playing as well as he has. You can see all the top 10s and all the top 5s he's had this year. So Paul Casey will absolutely be chalk once again. Now this is where it really starts to get interesting, where the price is really good on a lot of these guys, like Patrick Reed, another guy who's coming off a T6, a T20, and a T2 since the PGA Championship, is priced at $8,000. That's a really good sign. Someone like Charlie Hoffman, now down to $7,600, I think is interesting. Again, it was just a few weeks ago. We were loving everything about Charlie Hoffman. Here he is. The 7th most DraftKings points of any player over the course of the last 10 weeks on tour. And you can see some of the names above him: Justin Thomas, Hideki, Jon Rahm, Jordan Spieth, all significantly more than Charlie Hoffman. So I think that he is in play here for sure at $7,600. Daniel Berger. So recent form hasn't been great, but if you saw where Berger lands here, 96 DraftKings points, the 4th most over the last 3 times that this tournament has been played. A second place finish in 2015 and a T10 in 2016. And then I think he's actually, oh no, he hasn't played it 3 times. This is my, this is a chart where you have to play 3 times to make. So don't worry about Berger. We'll talk about somebody else here in a second. All right, here's one for you. Phil Mickelson at $7,300. Coming off the T6 last week, 4 rounds under 70. Is this the spark that Phil needed to get going? I hope so, because I'm probably going to be rostering him significantly. Phil has always been the type of guy, or at least this year, even when he's been volatile. Again, he can make a ton of he can make a ton of birdies, and then he can shoot himself in the foot and absolutely destroy a round. Because we know we're going to get 4 rounds out of him, I'm much more comfortable playing Phil in this type of event, especially off of last week's excellent showing, or 2 weeks ago, excellent showing, hoping he's getting right. And then just the fact that he's $7,300, which is very, very good. Down here, you saw Grayson Murray. He's just been scoring a ton of DraftKings points recently. 87 last week for a T25. That price is probably wrong on Murray. Not that I love and trust him, but again, we're going to get 4 weeks from everybody. And then there's an interesting name here with Billy Horschel. So, you know it's been a little ugly for Billy over the course of the last couple months. But if we go to, so this is the BMW Championship. The history, you have to have played at least 3 rounds, or I'm sorry, 3 tournaments to get on this chart. Billy Horschel's played 4 times. He has a win, 1 top 5. That means 2 top 10s. We can actually look at his history here. Here you go. T10, T32, and T18. Now, this win was not at Conway Farms. So I've already heard a little bit of like, oh, you know, throw that win out the window. It wasn't at this course, and that's not wrong. It's certainly not wrong. But a T10 last year, a T18 in 2013 indicates at least some good success here for Billy Horschel in the past on this course. And at $6,900, when you're constructing rosters trying to get as many of those top guys in as possible, these guys down here, the Grayson Murrays, the Billy Horschels of the world, like they're going to be very, very valuable. A guy like Adam Hadwin, who started to get it going again last week, has played well in some big field events this year. So those are the guys that are going to have to complete your lineups, because we're going to try to get as many of those studs in there as possible. Okay, that is it for this week. I don't have the odds for this week. I'm making this video early and they weren't available yet. I apologize. If you have any questions or comments, tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.